Hi, Dr. Lam. It's nice to meet you. I'm Amelia from the TED office. First of all, thank you very much for agreeing to participate in the interview. As a success story in winning CTU's Teaching Development Grant, we would like to know more about your TDG's project and your valuable experience in implementing virtual reality in classroom teaching via our interview today. So to start with, could you briefly introduce the project first? What are the aims of this project?
Thank you, Amelia. So thank you for having me today, and it's a pleasure to take part in this interview. So my VR project is about incorporating VR content into our teaching courses. And my goal here is to create memorable experiences for my students during the classroom learning. So we do so by sourcing various VR content that we can find on various media platforms and help our students to view these videos with their smartphones. What we do is we find the videos content. We also incorporate these VR headsets so that during the class time, the students can view this VR content inside of the headset we provide them using their smartphones, allowing them to create a more immersive environment, help them move away the traditional 2D PowerPoint learning experiences.
So speaking of VR, before the interview, you told us that VR has always been one of your favorite activities. And we would like to know more about how did you turn such interest into a teaching idea? Is there any story you would like to share with us?
Absolutely. So I've always enjoyed the immersive experience VR brings us. And in fact, I own 2 different generations of VR equipment at home myself. Sometimes I enjoy playing games with them, and like for example, zombie shooting games, archery games, and sometimes I just enjoy viewing Google Earth using my VR headsets. It just occurred to me one day, and I asked myself, what if I bring the similar enjoyable experience into a classroom for my students, and how would they like this very different and immersive experience to visualize this environmental content and help them to enhance their learning experience. And that is when I started researching and planning for this TDG grant to create this VR exercise.
So in terms of teaching as well as students learning, what is the impact of VR activities nowadays and in the future?
So far, almost every student who have tried it find it very stimulating and refreshing. And the impact of VR as a class exercise is huge. First of all, it creates a very immersive experience that's very different than traditional classroom learning. And second, more importantly, is that it allows us to give students a perspective or a view on some of the locations that may be otherwise inaccessible. It essentially creates a virtual field trip for our students. And this makes them have a lasting, memorable experience that helps them to learn more effectively.
So during the implementation of VR in your classroom teaching, did you encounter any challenges?
Yes. First of all, so traditional VR activities requires some more elaborate equipment such as motion sensors, very elaborate VR goggles, specially designed headsets, controllers even, which limits the use of VR technology in a larger classroom. If you have fewer than 10 students, it might be okay. But if you have larger classes, in some of our cases, it would be very challenging to acquire such an amount of equipment. So what we do here is that we have designed a special strategies that allows us to use students' own cell phone and turn that into a VR viewing device by providing them the VR headsets. So in this case, all our students are able to enjoy these VR experiences without needing us to install these elaborate infrastructures and help us to bring this VR technology implementable in other classes as well.
Okay. So can you please share with us what are students' favorite moments in this project? Is there any students' feedback for improvement on the VR-based classroom exercise?
Sure. So the best thing to me and most memorable thing is that students would share the excitement with their peers and they would talk about it. They would put it on their own social media platform and expressing this excitement about VR technologies. Because of their sharing between their peers, other faculties have begun to become more and more aware of this these wonderful technologies. And we are in the process of discussing and planning how is this VR technologies also implementable to other classes we have at School of Energy and Environment.
So, what would you tell other faculties to consider VR learning in their courses? And how do you maximize the applicability of VR in different courses?
So, the first few classroom implementations could be challenging in terms of logistics and getting the technical issues sorted out. For example, like bandwidth or retinal focus, so that our students can view the content more clearly. Most students actually have a VR, virtual reality, but only few have experienced it. So there's also a steep learning curve for our student to do the setup and just to get acquainted with the technology. So I would say preparation and readiness are the keys to the successful implementation. To maximize the applicability, there are many VR resources on the internet or even published literature these days to help faculties to become more acquainted with the technology and to understand what is the most effective means to implement it and help them to design course materials based on their teaching styles or the content.
So how has this TDG winning experience impacted you as a faculty? Do you have any plans for the future?
Well, I'm very glad you asked this question. Actually, this TDG grant is the very first grant I received at CityU. The whole application process has been a very pleasant experience because, first of all, TED office staff are extremely helpful and they're very enthusiastic about helping us to develop our own innovative teaching program. Second, the proposal itself also asks a variety of very critical questions that help us to rethink what is the most impactful way to design our teaching exercise to help maximize our students' learning experiences. So this really helped me to rethink how we can design the VR exercise to maximize our students' learning experiences. And I was extremely lucky to be awarded $270K to develop this VR exercise from scratch. And I'm extremely grateful that I was awarded these resources to help me build this VR program. Thanks to TDG, I was able to do a few test runs with a few different classes, and just early a few weeks ago, we were able to reach out to a larger student body with over 50 students, all of which have expressed very positive feedbacks and enjoyed the exercise, what a VR can bring them. And now we are looking forward to expanding this VR exercise to other students from other institutes and to reach out a larger body of students.
That sounds great. We really look forward to your research work in the future. And that's all I want to ask for today. It's very nice talking to you, and I am very much enjoying hearing your project sharing and insights. That's the end of this interview. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.